Alright, guys. I'm going to try to do a clip here. The weekly podcast. For those of you that don't know, I do a show called The Daily Dope Show. And try to get you some information about the drug war. And I try to comment on what's going on out there, really, mostly. The weekly podcast, we usually start out with international stories, and then we move into, like, national headline stuff, and then we go state by state. And then I have a little section about health and beauty. And then final section is the good people that smoke weed. It's going to be a fun one today. Speaking of fun ones, slow week in news. I've made some clips here and there, and I'm just trying to get through all this stuff that's going on in my life and try to stay even keel with my hobbies and my habits and stuff, and trying to continue to make clips. So without any further delay, here is the podcast that's number 14. Hard to believe I got 14 podcasts. Hard to believe it's almost been a year since I started the channel, and we are where we are. And where we are right now is we're finding, for the second time, an illicit shipment of weed coming in from the Mexican Ford plant, Mexican Ford manufacturing plants. Yeah, this time they found 277 pounds in railroad cars used to ship new Ford vehicles from Mexico to Detroit. So these were in the rail was at the Ford Rail Distribution Facility in Woodhaven, Michigan. No arrests have been made. Investigators are following up on leads. The rail cars also contain 200 Ford and Lincoln vehicles, which were inspected when officers arrived at the facility, according to the agency. Sounds like someone's just putting these guys to work searching cars and shit. Ford Motor Company issued a statement Wednesday night regarding the discovery. I don't know why they said recording there, but anyway. We are taking this very seriously. We are working closely with a number of law enforcement agencies on this investigation, including the FBI, Customs, Department of Homeland Security, and local police. We cannot comment further as this is an active investigation. Sounds real serious, guys. I mean, come on. This is the second time this has happened. Earlier this month, more than 400 pounds of marijuana were found in 15 new Ford Fusions shipped from Mexico to Ohio and Pennsylvania. Investigators in Ohio's Portage County had been called to a Ford dealership after a service department employee found a package of pressed marijuana in a spare tire compartment during the vehicle inspection. The ensuing investigation led to a rail yard, and other dealerships in Ohio and Pennsylvania. I don't know why this keeps jumping to the top. Where more such packages were found. So there you go. I don't know why I even cared about that story. It just goes to show an example of when something like this happens, that much resources all of a sudden gets focused on some kind of investigation to figure out where all this weed came from. Guys, we're talking about Ohio and Pennsylvania here. What do those two states have in common? Well, even though they have some kind of semblance of a medical marijuana program, they don't really have shit. So they still have a huge black market demand for these bricks of shitty weed coming from Mexico. How do we stop that? Well, we legalize cannabis. all through North America, federally. Quit bullshitting around. This is the year 2018 almost. Why is this still a thing? Why is it still a big deal? Yeah, something happened here. I'm not on the actual internet. I'm on a remote computer, so I don't really know. Well, I'm not on a remote computer, but I don't have internet access on this computer. So I can't get rid of this thing. So we're just going to try to squeeze this article in underneath it. This is concerning the FDA, who was trying to approve a new OxyContin, a generic one, that had some kind of abuse deterrence. Let's check this out. A panel of Food and Drug Administration advisors voted against approving a new opioid painkiller with a unique feature for determining abuse, or deterring abuse. It releases a deep blue dye if someone tries to get high by crushing, chewing, or snorting the pills. Are you fucking serious? How could that possibly be safe? In what universe could that be construed by somebody as a marketing pitch to be something to seriously consider, man? Are you fucking idiot? I guess the pharmaceutical companies are like, what can't we get away with? Let's see whatever we throw at them, they're going to approve it, right? I mean, they fucking approved fentanyl mouth spray, for Christ's sake. All right, panelists voted overwhelmingly against approving Intellipharmaceutics International's Intellipharmaceutic. Now they're just making up fucking names because they're like, okay, well, we'll just make up a name for this shit. Give it to cousin Eddie over there. Let him run that one. See if he can make $1 billion off of some stupid gimmick like this. So this was on some generic version of an extended release OxyContin, a key drug in the U.S. opioid addiction epidemic. Yeah, and one of the top overdose drugs going on out there. Has been for decades. Ever since these guys put it on the market, people have been dying from it left and right. But the FDA approves that whenever they need to. I guess this is what you got to do to make it so they don't approve it, is make it super weird and dangerous. So the FDA usually follows its advisor's advice, huh? Doctors and scientists raised many concerns about the dye's safety for intended patients and its effectiveness in deterring opioid abusers. Most said the company hadn't done enough studies of the drug. Come on. I guess they just figured, why bother studying this shit when we already studied all the other, OxyContins and they were fine. Oh, but what about the dye? What about the dye? We didn't have to study that. We're just studying the drug, right? I mean, that's probably how the drug company was acting. I mean, who knows? But basically, if they didn't do enough studies on it, that's because they couldn't fucking do one that didn't prove it was fucking bullshit. Dangerous as hell and just weird. So some suggest that the blue stains around the mouth and nose from trying to abuse the drug could become popular among addicts, which is totally fucking ignorant. And others said the dye's scarlet letter shaming approach was insensitive. I think both are wrong and both are right in their own way, but I don't think people would be running around, because basically you're talking about a generic extended release OxyContin. These aren't very popular on the street, man, especially when they blow up in your face with dye. It's just going to be the last thing a junkie wants to run into when they're absolutely dying for a fix. So no, it ain't going to be no fad. But anyway, get the fuck out of here, all right? And what is this, another excuse to crank out another million fucking pills that are going to kill another, 1,000 people or whatever? So no, fuck off. And the only way we win the opioid epidemic is if we shut this shit down. You can't shut the pill mills down, because guess what happens? The heroin starts coming in twice as heavy. So the only way to win this shit is to make it so people don't want to do this shit. That's plain and simple, man. Give them alternatives. Never get them addicted to it in the first place with the alternatives, such as cannabis for pain. That's a no-brainer. But by and large, man, you just need to go to the manufacturers and be like, look, you're making like 30 billion pills, and there's only 7 billion people on the planet. Fucking slow that shit down, dude. The demand is there, sure. But there is something to, in a supply and demand system, you can't like affect the demand with the supply too often. But one of the ways you can do it is you can definitely not oversaturate markets with stuff that is in high demand. Because as long as people know that it's there and it's available, they're going to try to get it. And as long as a pill manufacturer makes too much of something, they're still going to have an incentive to get rid of that shit, whether it's legal avenues or not. If you don't believe it, just fucking go look into it, man. Every one of these pharmaceutical companies has violated that shit many a times. Except for maybe IntelliPharmaceuticals or whatever. Every time, I've never heard of them before. Have you? They're just making this shit up every other day. So, I guess this falls under the category of national news or whatever. Here you have my arch enemy, Kevin Sabet, president of Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Right off the bat, there's just nothing but faults. When I go through this, Kevin, I'm not gonna fucking, I'm not gonna grab your source and read it and tell you you're wrong because of this or that. I'm just gonna fucking tell you how disingenuous you are to make the points that you make, because you're a piece of shit. You have no use. I mean, we have no use for you. Nobody, the public has no use for you. You've always been a backstabbing piece of shit. Let's go down and look at his little bio down here at the bottom and see what he was. Where'd it go? I guess this is the wrong version of this somehow. Oh no, here it is. Here it is. Commentator by Kevin Sabet. Sabet, however the fuck you say it. Sabet. President of Smart Approaches to Marijuana. And former White House drug advisor for Presidents Clinton, Bush, and Obama. He co-founded SAM with former Congressman Patrick Kennedy, who is currently an honorary board member. Follow Sabet on Twitter. No thanks. Well, I do, just so I can see what kind of bullshit he's talking. And it's always just complete horse shit, Kevin. You don't have any business saying anything you say about cannabis in the public sphere. Now, when you were sitting there whispering sweet little nothings in the ears of these three presidents here, these three corrupt shitbaggers of presidents, it wasn't no big deal. We understood that your agenda is bipartisan, and that's to fuck over people that want to keep marijuana legalized or want to legalize marijuana. You want to keep marijuana illegal, and that's what you were when you were an advisor, is somebody that always was just there, like Big Pharma stuck you in there to just continue to demonize marijuana. And now that you don't work for anybody, you come out here and you think you can do it out here. Well, I got news for you, douchebag. You can't fucking do it out here. We ain't listening to your dumb shit. Nobody cares about what you're saying. Nobody does. 146 shares. I guarantee you most of those were people sharing them because they did what I did. They tweeted about a share copy of it just so they could make fun of it. So anyway, smart approaches to marijuana, my ass. The smartest approach to marijuana would be, and I'm going to make my point here, to legalize and regulate. That way, the underage market doesn't have access to it like it does now that it's in the black market. It'll be sold in a regulated situation, and generally that looks like what you call a pot shop, but whatever. When you go into one of those places, that's the only fucking thing you can buy is cannabis-related stuff. You don't go in there and they got mushrooms and acid and ecstasy and Molly and fucking, crack and heroin and meth. It's not like that. They don't have those things. That's the guy in the corner with the fucking trench coat on. So, then you're looking at another big bonus is you take the money, that revenue stream away from the cartels. And not only the revenue stream, but something else a lot of people don't talk about is with cannabis, the cartel has way more fingers to reach up into the country, because there's all these places where, cannabis markets for cartel cannabis, quite frankly, brickweed. Wherever it's illegal as hell for marijuana in America, that's where you can find the fucking brickweed. So guess what? That's all you need to do to get rid of the brickweed is to legalize marijuana in those places as well. And by the way, because they have those fingers like that, then their other drugs are reaching those areas. And quite frankly, that's why heroin epidemics are bad in places like Ohio and, West Virginia. And, because they don't have fucking marijuana like we do in places like Michigan and California, Colorado. They don't have quote-unquote pot shops. So what you do is you find somebody that can get some weed somewhere, and you don't know what the fuck you're going to get. If it does have a name and it's not some brickweed shit, you're paying top dollar for it. But if you're getting it from a Mexican connection, you could also get cocaine. You can get heroin. You can get, some cases, PCP. I mean, that's how it goes. That's the reality, man. And if you don't fucking like reality, obviously you don't give a shit about reality. In your mind, all that is, you think you're gonna shut that down somehow. Well, you sound like Todd Aiken trying to shut with some woman getting raped, trying to shut that down. Those things don't shut down, dude. Kevin Sabet, you are a fucking idiot. I can't explain, I can't express that enough. I wish I wouldn't have to resort to just downright name calling and shit, but that's what you are, dude. You're a fucking idiot. You act like you have the smart approach to marijuana. What is that? Well, you even say it in this article. I'll get to it. Where you're talking about, well, we don't want to arrest people, just for smoking drugs or whatever. But we got to enforce the law. And then you don't offer no, lower form of punishment or anything like that. And you're talking about marijuana always. And you don't think much about medical marijuana either. So you're just a typical, straight-up prohibitionist. So fuck off. So here, I'll read this shit to you. Today, a growing class of well-heeled lobbyists intent on commercializing marijuana are doing everything they can to sell legal weed as a panacea for every contemporary challenge we face in America. Over the past several years, we've been barraged by claims that legal pot can cure the opioid epidemic or crisis. Check, it can, and it is in places where it's being allowed to. Cure cancer. Check, it is doing a lot better job at taking care of a lot of cancer than a lot of shit that people have been trying for 100 years and it ain't doing nothing but killing you. Eliminate the international drug cartels. Well, it's not going to do it single-handedly because guess what? They're still going to have heroin and cocaine and methamphetamine and quite frankly, under-the-table pharmaceuticals to deal with. Because you guys don't have a fucking clue, in the government anyway, don't have a fucking clue on how to actually control your controlled substances. Seems like it's just like an implied thing, man. But quite frankly, it's just as easy to get your pharmaceuticals on the street than it is. It's easier in most cases than to go to the doctor. You go to the doctor, you got to pay for fucking prescription fees and wait in the waiting room for a couple hours and shit. It's a big pain in the ass. So, and even solve climate change. Now you're talking about cannabis. We're talking about hemp. Yes, it's possible. I don't know about climate change altogether. It's too late, dude. I think it's too late to solve that. But one of the solutions that was offered by the hemp people back in the fucking 1980s was hemp. Grow hemp. Grow as much of it as you can. Stop deforestation. Use ethanol from hemp. Build buildings out of fucking hempcrete, which has a negative carbon footprint. But no, you don't want to listen to any of those real solutions. But I guarantee you, anything I just mentioned, prohibition of cannabis isn't going to do any of the things you just mentioned. So let's go back through your list and see if prohibition is doing anything to help that. Does prohibition of cannabis help the opioid crisis? Fuck no, it don't. You guys always talk about some gateway theory shit. Well, really, when you have cannabis being illegal, if you look at those places, like I said earlier, that's where the heroin and the opioid epidemic is at the fucking highest. And I'm not just talking about, there's a lot of people that are, getting a lot of pills and they're kind of hooked or whatever. Yeah, there's a lot of deaths. A lot of people are dropping fucking dead of overdoses on a daily basis. Curing cancer. Keeping marijuana illegal. Does that cure cancer or help it in any way, shape, or form? No. I mean, if it's illegal and someone's getting chemo, they can't even fucking eat. They die quicker. So keeping prohibition light on, bad for cancer, unless cancer being the billions of dollar industry that it is in the pharmaceutical world. Eliminate international drug cartels. Well, we know one fact for sure is if you talk to the people in Mexico, they'll say, yeah, we don't really fuck with weed as much as we used to. That's because every time you look at a place that used to be one of their markets, like Colorado, and you see the billions of dollars they're making selling marijuana legally, you think, damn, that used to be going right straight to the fucking drug cartels. So you're an asshole, Kevin Sabet, by flipping that on its ear and acting all snive about, oh, you think you can eliminate the drug cartels with this legalization plot. Well, we never fucking said that, but we did say we would fucking definitely make the cartels reconsider their portfolio. And they did. And they definitely don't sell as much weed. In fact, the big cartel gangster kingpins have been known to import weed from California because they like to smoke the good shit. Solving climate change, well, what does prohibition do for that? It doesn't do anything good for it. One seemingly compelling case made by special interest groups is that legal marijuana can boost our economy too. After all, marijuana business creates jobs and brings in millions of dollars in much-needed tax revenue. It's all true. So, that's the one thing right-wingers can't really argue with. They get to that one and they're just like, yeah, but it's not enough. Yeah, it's not enough to fucking pay for the big tax breaks you gave to your billionaire fucking buddies now, is it? All right, so, yeah. Yet a closer look at the facts reveals a starkly different reality. The truth is, a commercial market for marijuana not only harms public health and safety, it also places a significant strain on local economies and weakens the ability of the American workforce to compete in an increasingly global marketplace. You're a dumb motherfucker, Kevin. That is not true. The problem with the marketplace in America is that you don't hire people if they burn a piss test for marijuana. So you're getting a lot of dumb motherfuckers because a lot of smart motherfuckers are out there smoking marijuana. It's a fact. So every point you make here is just false, based on your assumption that your propaganda that you spew and you believe in, or I don't know if you believe it, but you try to make others believe in, is like true. So you can springboard off that propaganda to make these other finer points. Like the truth is, commercial market for marijuana not only harms public health and safety, it don't. It also places a significant strain on local economies and weakens the ability. Man, this is just too much in one sentence, Kevin. Learn English, buddy. Commercial market for marijuana. Does it harm public health? No, it does not. As a matter of fact, for the people that do smoke marijuana, it's actually better for their health because this marijuana, by and large, in the legal regulated market, has to be tested for, contamination and potency and stuff. So you're getting a more high quality product that is less dangerous by definition because it's regulated. And then safety, I'm assuming he's acting like because marijuana is legal in the commercial market, you know, all of a sudden way more people are smoking it, so there's a lot more accidents. First of all, you have never proven that there's any accidents because of marijuana. So we'll get to that later, but I don't know if you're talking about people fucking up on the job or something. Oh, I'm stoned and I don't know what I'm doing, you know, like that's all bullshit. So, yeah, I don't know what he's talking about there, but it definitely doesn't affect safety, whatever the fuck that means. All right, it places significant strain on local economies. What does that even mean, dude? How does a commercial market for marijuana place a significant strain on local economies? What do you mean? People are buying marijuana, and this isn't nothing new. They were buying marijuana, and for the most part, somebody in a different economy, far away, sometimes all the way to Mexico, was making that money. So there's no strain on the local economy. That used to be when you take money out of the local economy for the people that buy weed. And by the way, the number of people that smoke weed did not really go up that much. And if it did, if the numbers on polls went up at all, which is like very not even worth mentioning, and yeah, they did maybe, it's because people are not afraid to say yes on stupid ass polls like that. Someone called you up and said, hey, did you smoke marijuana? We're doing a poll. Now, if it's 1981, you're like, fuck no, I don't smoke marijuana, while you're lighting one up. But in, 2001, you might have said so, but in 2011, you definitely said yes. And in 2000, and when your state legalized marijuana, like you live in Colorado and it's 2016 or some shit, yeah. You're like, hell yes, I smoke marijuana. What else you want to know about me smoking marijuana? How much do I smoke? I'll tell you. It's just absurd to think that there's more people smoking because it's legal. There might be that one guy that was like, oh, I couldn't before. But if he has to take a piss test for his job, he still ain't smoking. So the reasons that people didn't smoke marijuana before are still the same. It's sadly enough. Because people are making them not smoke. And that should be a crime. There is such thing as called cannabinoid deficiency syndrome. Look that shit up. I'll do a story about it one of these days when I get mad enough. So anyway, forget about this local strain bullshit. If anything, it's boosting the local economies because they're making the money that the fucking cartels used to make. That's all you need to know. Weakens the ability of American workforce to compete in an increasingly global marketplace. This is the most horse shitty thing I've ever heard of. Like I said, he's taking like the premise that smoking marijuana makes you a lazy fucking worthless pile of fucking blob on the couch watching reruns of fucking the Munsters, and you're just a worthless piece of garbage. You're hanging out in the attic listening to fucking Led Zeppelin for 8 hours a day with the goddamn incense burning, the black lights going. Black light posters are falling off the wall because it's so fucking rotten up there. That image of a lazy pothead is just not even real, dude. It's like such a caricature that was just like a joke the whole time. And if someone wanted to play into that and kind of like be that person, they weren't unsuccessful. I've never heard of that person. Like I don't know anybody around my town anyway that just like, man, that Bob, dude, he's just annoying the way he just sits around and smokes pot all fucking day and don't do a goddamn thing. It's fucking ridiculous. Somebody know somebody like that? Let me know about that. At least he's taking good care of his health and he's not going to die of an overdose. How about that? Should be happy about it. But anywho, you're talking about this global marketplace that we're trying to work so hard to compete in. That's horse shit too. You shipped all the fucking jobs all over the world and then, barely left us with any good jobs, and then you piss test the hell out of people. What do you expect, man? Nobody that smokes weed even wants to participate in your bullshit workforce. So quit acting like it's such a fucking awesome thing. It ain't. But marijuana has zero to do with the workforce being increasingly
competitive or whatever the fuck you want to call it. And yeah, America still is one of the most competitive workforces in the whole world. So just another total bullshit platitude coming from Kevin the dipshit Sabet. We already know that drug use costs our economy hundreds of millions of dollars a year in public health and safety costs. Actually, you're wrong there. It costs billions of dollars to handle the opioid epidemic that's going on right now. So fuck you. No, marijuana doesn't have anything to do with that. If you're talking about those people that you guys keep putting in rehab for marijuana, that's fucking ridiculous. We're sick of that shit. No one needs to go to fucking drug rehab for marijuana. But that's how you get kids to not get in trouble. Well, we'll call Officer Handyman. He'll come out here and put the handcuffs on you and take you to jail, and you'll have a record for the rest of your life. You won't be able to go to college. You won't be able to do nothing. You'll be a loser. Because that's what they fucking do. And then little Johnny's so fucking scared, he's got no choice but to go to rehab. And then he's sitting in the fucking group session with a bunch of people that are seriously there because they want to get clean from real addiction. What are you in here for, little Johnny? Well, I got caught smoking a joint. You know, they sent me to the principal's office. This Kevin Sabet, you're a fucking moron. We're sick of your bullshit that you're doing. Marijuana doesn't cost the economy jack shit, except for the enforcement of the law. That's where you run into fucking administrative costs. Because now you got cops out there that's fucking dicking around, fucking searching people's cars every time they pull them over. They find a little weed, next thing you know it, they got to go downtown, they got to book that shit into evidence, they got to book somebody into jail, they got to write a fucking report, they got to show up to court 5 times or more. Might even turn out to be a jury trial. And yeah, then you might have to house this guy in a fucking jail for a year or more. And I just read a thing where California, that would cost you $75,000 a year. So what's the point of all that? There's your public health costs. And the safety costs? What do you mean safety? I've never met a marijuana situation that was dangerous. There's no danger involved. The drug itself is as benign as fucking anything you could buy at the produce department at your grocery store. Public health and safety costs. Now, you're talking about drug use. I don't know if you're talking about cannabis, though. You ain't talking about cannabis. And this hundreds of millions of dollars is a low ball for fucking what we have to deal with just the opioid epidemic. So fucking, once again, man, you're just a dumbass. The last comprehensive study to look at the cost of drugs in society found that drug use cost taxpayers more than $193 billion. Okay, you finally got your number right. Due to lost work productivity, healthcare costs, and higher crime. None of those have to do with marijuana. Again, lost work productivity is because of alcohol. That happens every 5th of July, every fucking 2nd of January, every other 4-day weekend. I mean, just shut up, man. We know where the productivity loss is. It's the alcohol. And it's the fucking pharmaceutical painkillers and benzodiazepines. That's what it is. Why do you keep equating cannabis to drug use? And when you talk about drug use, you're throwing alcohol in there too. You don't even want to be real specific very much. But bunching cannabis in there with those is just ridiculous. So again, healthcare costs. We already went through that one. And higher crime, well, we don't need to worry about that. Because I got a story for you in a little bit here about Washington State and how crime's actually going down. Anyway, Kevin goes on to talk about a new study out of Canada that found marijuana-impaired driving alone costs more than $1 billion. Whatever, dude. Nobody in their right mind will believe you when you say that. Because there's no way that that's a possibility. So laws commercializing marijuana only make this problem worse and hamper local communities' ability to deal with health and safety fallout of increased drug use. And he was just implying it at first. But now he just comes right out and says it. Increased drug use. That's that old school propaganda that's been rearing its ugly head ever since people started talking about legalized marijuana. They're like, oh no, it's going to increase the drug use if you do that. Not just the use of marijuana, mind you, but like all drug. Like you increase marijuana use, forget about it, man. The Pandora's box just blows the lid off, man. Everybody will be doing heroin. It'll just be a fucking orgy of people shooting dope in the streets. You know, this kind of hysterics was often the mantra of my, growing up. That's what I heard on TV. I grew up during an era when the presidents were, Reagan and Bush won, and they got on TV with just the fire and brimstone speeches about marijuana, crack, yeah. And, to be honest, man, I've seen the hardest of hard situations in the drug world, and I've been on the streets before in Detroit. I've lived on the fucking streets. I'll tell you, man, to be honest, dude, this shit is this way over the top scare tactics. All you need to do is be honest about what drugs are to people when they're young and tell them the truth about them. That's it, man. You don't need to be all like, whoa, this is crazy. The fucking sky is going to fall. It's just not the case, man. So this is just terrible right here. You're talking about, you start out talking about marijuana impaired driving, which is total horse shit. And this Canadian study with $1 billion behind their costs to deal with that is probably because of some administrative upgrades that they made, as in they've been investing a fuckload of money trying to come up with some kind of breathalyzer for the last 10 years. So you're just totally distorting the whole fucking thing, like through and through. And I doubt that they're even being honest players when they say this $1 billion, if that's even what this study says. I'm not going to discount that, because I haven't looked at the study, but I'm just going to say that this is the kind of study that Kevin Sabet loves. Because it's written by people like him, people that want to give you as many bad ideas about cannabis as they possibly can. So I don't know where this quote is coming from here. Oh, wait, it's coming anyway. So this isn't just a theory, it's already happening. No, it ain't. Look, dude, the same amount of people smoked marijuana and drove before the laws changed, and nothing's changed. No numbers have really changed. Car accidents are about the same, so just quit talking about that shit. He's not gonna, though. As marijuana use has increased in states that have legalized it, that's not the case. So has use by employees. No, they're just actually burning more piss tests because people are like, oh, it's legal now, I guess it don't matter if I burn the piss test. Even though their job probably briefed them and told them it was. They're like, well, I'll just go get a lawyer and fucking sue you because it's legal. Large businesses in Colorado now state that after legalization, they have had to hire out-of-state residents in order to find employees that can pass pre-employment drug screen. That's total horse shit. I'm sure he could find somebody that would say that, because most of these employers he's talking about are some people like Walmart and shit. So, of course, they're going to say shit like that. And quite frankly, again, the people that smoke marijuana don't want to, stupid jobs where you got to piss in a cup for just some dumb burger flipping bullshit. Are you fucking serious, man? Come on. But he's talking about particularly those safety-sensitive jobs like bus drivers, train operators, and pilots. Let me tell you, guys, those people either get stoned or they don't. And either way, they're going to be able to pass your stupid drug test. So now drug-using employees, supported by special interest groups, are organizing to make drug use a right, despite the negative impacts we know it will have on employers and the companies that hire him. All right, again, this asshole doesn't fucking say marijuana or cannabis when he's talking about cannabis. You don't say meth when he's talking about meth. You don't say alcohol when he's talking about alcohol. And it works both ways. It works when you're trying to say something bad about something, and it works when you're trying to say something good about something. In this case, he's talking about cannabis only. But he don't want to say that because, you know, he knows he's on the wrong side of fucking history here. If he said cannabis right here, and now cannabis using employees supported by special interest groups are organized to make a drug use a right, to make cannabis use a right. Despite the negative impacts we all know cannabis will have on employers, or it, I don't know what, okay, wait, using drugs or cannabis at work and the companies that hire them. Now look, man, I'm not a big worker, to be honest. I haven't really worked in a long time because I've basically done what I do, and I don't really have, you know, time to go look for a job and do stupid ass menial work for somebody else while they make millions of dollars and then they pay me shit. I don't got time for that shit. So whatever, you know. But what he's saying here doesn't really make sense to me, because I don't really know personally cannabis users that are fighting to actually be able to sit at their job and stoke it up. I mean, sure, maybe they wouldn't mind being able to go out to the fucking car at lunch and recharge or some shit, but I mean, you're acting like, right here it says the negative impacts we know it will have on employers. Like you're saying that they're organizing to make it so that they could smoke weed at work. Fuck you, employer. This guy can smoke a cigarette on break. This guy's drinking 10 cups of coffee. Why can't I smoke a cigarette? Fuck, this guy over here is operating a goddamn drill press on 10 Vicodins. So, again, I think he is totally full of shit. Because you already, as a drug, you already have carte blanche. You can already go to work and pop as many Xanaxes as you want. No one's going to fucking say no to that. Especially if you really need Xanax to calm the fuck down. So I don't know what he's talking about, man. I think he's specifically talking about we're fighting to get marijuana off the goddamn drug tests. This piss screening bullshit. It's got to go, dude. It's the only one you can actually burn it on. All the other drugs you can be clean in 2 days. Cannabis, it takes more than 30 days. So fuck you, dude. I don't even know what you're talking about. This is just the stupidest shit ever, Kevin. I'm kind of disappointed in your complete platitudes and just ridiculous wording, and how purposely you dance around making yourself look like a complete fucking idiot by doing shit like I just pointed out. Because if you replace drug with cannabis there, or you just point blank tell people what you're talking about. Yeah, they're fighting to see if you can get cannabis off the fucking piss test. Yeah, we are. You know why? Because that's fucking, it's violates people's rights. You're saying I don't have a right to a better life because I smoke fucking weed? But this guy that gets fucking shit-faced drunk every day can go get a job anywhere he wants. And most of the jobs probably be drunk on the fucking job. No one's going to say shit. Fucking unions will protect his ass. Oh, yeah, we'll just send him to some AA classes, man. He'll be all right. So shut the fuck up again about your weird wording to try to like make yourself not look like an idiot, because that's what you are. What about those promised tax revenues? So far in Colorado, marijuana taxes have failed to shore up the state budget shortfalls. The budget deficit there doubled in the last few years, despite claims that pot taxes could churn deficit into surplus. That's because, as with most places, right-wing governments gave tax breaks to their billionaire buddies and all the corporations, and then they left. And, you know, they didn't say that cannabis taxes was going to fill that hole. But what they did do is they said, well, we're going to specifically do this, this, and this with our cannabis tax money. And they've been doing a pretty fucking good job doing all that. In fact, they've been doing better than what they said they were doing, and they've even given people their tax money back. No one talks about that much. So shut up again. You're taking something way out in left field and trying to act like it's something. Oh, they didn't fix the fucking billionaire tax breaks that the Republicans gave them decades ago. Big surprise. Yeah, they knew that those fucking tax breaks were there, and they're like, yeah, we ain't trying to pay for everything that these guys ain't paying for. And I applaud that. Collected pot taxes only comprise a tiny fraction of Colorado's state budget. That's because they target their fucking the revenue from that. Less than 1%. Oh yeah, well, it's the shit that people really want, though, that money is going towards. So you lose again, Kevin. After costs of enforcement and regulation are subtracted, the remaining revenue used for public good is very limited. And that's just a misstatement by saying used for the public good. Like, dude, everything that the fucking taxes, that cannabis taxes in Colorado do goes to the public good. So quit being an asshole with the facts. Even viewed solely in the context of Colorado's educational needs, pot revenue is not newsworthy. They never said it was going to be, but they've given a lot of money to schools. So what are you going to try to tell us? The Colorado Department of Education indicates that their schools require about $18 million in capital construction funds alone. Marijuana tax did not even dent this gap, or $18 billion. Well, marijuana tax wasn't supposed to. It's supposed to do specific things, and it is used by schools. And you're not going to find anybody that's got that and are complaining about it, by the way. So you said it yourself. It's marijuana tax is really a small percentage of all the taxes in the budget that they need. I mean, you said it yourself, dude. I got you right there on the paragraph above. So, okay, what are they supposed to do? Take all the marijuana taxes and throw it at that $18 billion shit? I mean, come on, man. How much money do you think they're making in taxes? They put the numbers out every fucking month. They put out the yearly number already. They put out like a 6-month number for this year, I believe. So, get on your game, Kevin. If you want to be like a geek about what people do with tax money and what tax money goes to what and how much this guy is contributing and what about that guy? What about the fucking alcohol manufacturers in Colorado? How much taxes are they paying? I think they got a tax break, didn't they? Oh, yeah, they got a tax break. I think they got a tax break from Hickenlooper. He's not even a fucking Republican. So quit bitching about marijuana taxes not paying for everything under the fucking sun, man. You want to bitch about that? You got plenty of fucking billionaires over there getting tax breaks that you can go bark at them. Oh, you got the NFL hanging out. They don't pay taxes. What do they do in Denver? Do they get fucking free stadiums too like they do in Detroit? So you're just barking up the wrong tree about tax money and what it's being done with and how much it actually is. So in Washington state, half of the $42 million of marijuana tax money goes to legalization. Advocates promised would reach prevention programs in schools by 2016 never materialized. We've seen this move before. Witness our experience with gambling, lottery, and other vices. Yeah, well, I'm not really versed on the situation in Washington state as it pertains to that $42 million in taxes, but I'm sure that the Alcohol Control Board and the government and the police unions and shit are all making sure that it goes to the right people. You fucking idiot. So whatever. Anyway, moving on. We should also care about the human fallout of increased marijuana acceptance because, the more people accept something, the worse that has to... What? Well, again, that doesn't even make any sense at all, dude. How you can say that you have to fight against something that is gaining popularity and acceptance. I don't fucking get it. Why would something get increased acceptance? Oh, because they found out that it wasn't this evil, bad bullshit that the fucking government told them it was. Recent evidence demonstrates that today's marijuana isn't the weed of the 60s. No, again, man, you start right out with reefer madness level propaganda. And that's just based on one thing and one thing only. THC levels being, what it is. Average THC levels. There's always been stuff that had like above average THC levels. But we're talking about the overall pool of weed. The THC average is up to like 10 or 12%, as opposed to back in his day. I don't know how old this guy is. But anyway, back in this, like in the 60s, for example, it was down in the between 2 and 5%, from what I've read. I don't believe that though either. But that's just the overall average of all the weed that's out there. Now it's between 10 and 15. Quite frankly, I see mostly 15 and 20 around these parts, but whatever. It's addictive and harmful to the human brain, especially when used by adolescents. Wow, how much propaganda can you cram into one fucking paragraph? And it's only like 4 sentences. Not even. It's only 3. So he's just cramming you full of shit here. Trying his hardest to this spaghetti monster you. It's addictive, but not even as addictive as fucking coffee or cigarettes. I would argue cigarettes are really addictive compared to cannabis. Cannabis is not really addictive. Harmful to the human brain. Nope. No proof of that. There's no study ever that's showing that. And especially when used by adolescents. Again, no study ever has proven that. And that is the one that they act like they don't need any proof. All the studies I've seen are some correlative data that was sucked out of other, pools of data that just pertain to other things that people are studying. Never has anybody actually done a real study that said, oh yeah, marijuana hurts the brain and here's how. Because it's just fucking not true. It doesn't fucking hurt the brain. And if anything, it helps the brain. And there's definitely a lot of studies and scientific research that can prove that. So, again, just a bunch of reefer madness crammed into a fucking paragraph. Moreover, in states have already legalized drug, there has been an increase in drug driving crashes. That's false. And the source he uses there is AAA. The same people that said that there wasn't an increase. In fact, there was a decrease in Washington state and in Colorado overall, because the way that they did the increase and decrease, they looked at the numbers and they were like, oh, there was more crashes in 2016 than there was in 2012 or whatever, before the legalization. 2011 maybe, I'm not sure. But anyway, yeah, duh, because population numbers was like big time different. A shitload more people lived in Colorado in 2016 than what did in the year that they were pulled up before. And it was, by the time you readjusted for that, the crashes had once again fucking gone down. And that's AAA's talking. So, and AAA did a backflip too. In the same article, they said that fatalities went up, but they weren't talking about drug driving fatalities. They were just saying fatalities in general. Crashes. So I don't know how he comes up with this out of that, because I've read that and they don't say that. And youth marijuana use is not up in Colorado, and there's definitely Colorado's own numbers. I mean, it's not a study or nothing. It's just like a straight up Colorado does data on that, and that's what they've fucking said, that no, youth use is not up. It's not in, again, you look at the population numbers, they went up significantly. And not even as many people say they use it on a regular basis that were high school seniors, for God's sake. So what are you talking about, man? You keep saying this use is up where it's legalized. It's not true. States that have legalized marijuana also continue to see thriving black market and are experiencing a continued rise in alcohol sales, despite arguing users will switch to a safer drug. again, packing so much shit in one sentence. So they see this thriving black market. So the black market's not thriving. It's just still a thing that, because of regulation, even in Colorado, people are prone to fucking sell weed on the side. It's not a big thriving black market. It's just kind of like a commodities exchange for a system where, quite frankly, there ain't enough money down here at the people level. You know, when you get down on the people level, money is a little harder to come by. When you're up there in the gangster, bankster, and politician world, money ain't shit. You look at, people selling dime bags, and you're like, that's a scumbag. But to that person selling the dime bag, that's just as fucking daily, like $50 you need to live on these days, or whatever it is. Could be $100, depending on where you live. And that could be cheap. So it's black market bullshit. Come on, man. People are always gonna fucking, and let the market work itself out. How about that? And there's ways that, if your regulations are so stringent, I believe Colorado has like a fucking encyclopedia worth of regulations. Of course, it's going to be hard for the average person to even want to make money in that system. What are you going to do? Go get a job at the grow factory or some shit? And I guess that's a big thing. Like, I'm a grower, so I wouldn't want to have to be reduced to just having to go get a job at a fucking grow factory. I don't know. Anyway, Kevin, this black market thing, my final word on that is everybody can agree that at least the black market isn't the cartel-connected black market. And that's kind of like one of the things that you said earlier. We can't get rid of the cartels. Well, we can make it so that the cartel isn't as powerful and doesn't have their reach in places where we don't want dangerous-ass cartel people fucking controlling the black market and selling whatever the fuck they want. I would call it a green market. Because people that sell weed in Colorado on the so-called black market tip, they don't sell anything but weed, dude. And if they do, fuck them. They're pieces of shit. What do they got, meth and coke or something? I don't know. I don't live out west, so I hear it's pretty much like acceptable to do meth. That's bullshit. I will never see a world where being a meth head is straight, dude. Like, it's just not cool. Tweaking every weekend, and we just can't take it. But I'm not going to fucking, throw you under the bus, because that's not my style. Our experience a continued rise in alcohol sales, despite arguing users will switch to a safer drug. I can tell you that the people that sell alcohol in my area, since I moved from like just being a consumer to a full-time grower, yeah, they're pretty disappointed because my alcohol intake has probably went down to about 10% of what I used to do. I mean, I don't even do it to get buzzed, man. But I don't know where he's talking about that they've legalized marijuana and alcohol sales have gone up. That's not the studies I've seen. The studies I've seen, unanimous across the board, say that alcohol sales has either gone down slightly, like less than 5%, or unaffected. So what are you talking about, Kevin? You're just putting this bullshit. This is just like one stream of bullshit. Over the past several months, the Trump administration has signaled it was considering a crackdown on marijuana in the states where it's legal. And those signals keep getting weaker and weaker, bitch. What the fuck are you talking about? We don't yet know what this policy change may look like. But one thing we know for sure is that increasingly low-level, nonviolent offenders in federal prisons is not the answer. Individual users need incentives to encourage them to make healthy decisions, not handcuffs. God, you see the world with such like rose-tinted, beauty glasses. Like, what are you talking about? You're talking about people that were, in my opinion, you keep acting like you're talking about drugs, but you're talking about weed. This thing is so crazy. Let me start at the beginning. They're not really considering a crackdown on marijuana per se. They just think that, and I don't even know where they're getting this delusion from. They're really interested in the cartels, and they think that the cartel is still heavily involved in marijuana somehow. So, and then, they were talking about enforcing some gray market shit in Colorado. And we've seen business as usual, so I don't know what this crackdown you're talking about might look like either. But I'm guessing it's not really nothing. They want to be able to use, their full enforcement power on marijuana if they run into a situation where they need to. All right. One thing's for sure, that incarcerating low-level nonviolent offenders in federal prison is not the answer. Oh, you want to stay intact with at least the Democratic platitude of the day. Good job. I commend you. But we need to do a lot more than just say shit like that. We need to be specific and say that we should take all criminal penalties away from cannabis use. And in fact, the drug law in general, like, why are we treating users like they're criminals? So federal prisons for nonviolent drug offenders, not the answer for any drug. But he's like, users need incentives to encourage them to make healthy decisions. Like what? You offer nothing. We do need to enforce federal law, indeed, by reasserting federal control over the exploding marijuana industry. We know we can make a positive difference in preventing the commercialization of a drug that will put profits over public health and fight every regulation proposed to control its sale and use. Huh? This is just asinine how much of a run-on sentence this actually is. Because really, all right, but what we do need to enforce federal law, period. I don't know why. Indeed, by reasserting federal control over the exploding marijuana industry. So he's saying that he wants to wrap things up, guys. Let's wrap it up. Ain't that he's been sounding kind of patty cakes the whole time, but remember, we need to shut it down is the fucking name of the article. Well, and here he is, saying that we need to shut it the fuck down. Kevin, what you're talking about is going into a legal, by Colorado law, marijuana establishment, whether it be a grow facility that has like 1,000 or 10,000 plants growing. You're talking about all the people that work there, the people that own it, the investors, maybe some customers that are hanging out at the time, are all going to get arrested, taken to jail, given conspiracy charges by the federal government, and maybe spend 10, 20 years in prison. That's what you're calling for, dumbass. These are nonviolent drug offenders that are following the fucking law where they live. So shut the fuck up, man. You are a cancer on this country, and Sam is a cancer on this country, and your fucking bitch boy Patrick Kennedy is a cancer on this country. All of you guys need to fuck off. Yeah, you want to make a positive difference in preventing the commercialization of a drug that will put profits over public health. We haven't seen that yet. I don't know what you're talking about. All cannabis products made are completely healthy, non-dangerous, non-toxic, can't kill you, can't make it so you're too fucked up to operate machinery or cars, and furthermore, do not lead to other drugs. And no, we're not fighting every regulation proposed to control its sale and use, you fucking idiot. We're offering our own ideas as to how to regulate and shit. Nobody has a problem with most of the regulations that we have seen proposed anywhere, everywhere. And he tops it off with the classic marijuana addiction is real. And simply ignoring this health condition will only cost us down the road. We should assess marijuana users for drug use disorders as well as mental health problems and assess those into recovery. This can't happen in a climate that promotes use. Dude, shut the fuck up. You act like when cannabis was legalized in Washington and Colorado, all of a sudden this explosion of new users happened. Just overnight, millions of new people started using cannabis. Kevin, any fucking time, bro, I will debate you. But you probably will never even hear me say it because you're like behind a firewall of prohibitionists, lobbyists, politicians, corporate boardroom type executives from pharma companies or the owners themselves. But all in all, though, you're a piece of shit. Fuck you. All right. So back out in Washington, they found that when you legalize marijuana, it takes the fucking crime out of it, kind of. That's what I've been saying all along. Every time you turn a corner, you hear these people talking about, oh man, marijuana. If we legalize that, it's going to cost so much money for our police to enforce the new laws. No, it ain't. You guys used to enforce the old laws, and those ones made you do a lot more paperwork, so you're wrong. An upcoming report from the U.S. Department of Justice Task Force is expected to link marijuana to violent crime, which some fear might start a Trump administration crackdown on weed. And I apologize for this atrocious situation with these saved web pages. But anyway, U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions, has been quick to tie marijuana use to violent crime in recent months, fueling some advocates' concerns about what might come out of this week's report from the Task Force on Crime Reduction and Public Safety. In April, Sessions promised the task force would undertake a review of existing policies in the areas of charging, sentencing, and marijuana to ensure consistency with the department's overall strategy on reducing violent crime. That was after Sessions told reporters in February the nation was seeing real violence around the unhealthy practice of marijuana use. Who was seeing this? The nation was seeing this. No, they weren't. Quit lying and making shit up. I mean, we all have the internet. We can really Google fucking marijuana causing violence, real violence anywhere in America, and most of it's speculation or people ripping off people that have marijuana because, quite frankly, they're fucking desperate and poor and they got no life, like the fucker that ripped me off, man. Experts are telling me, or they're just assholes that would try to fuck somebody over. But anyway, they're always going to be out there, whether there's marijuana or not. They're going to be doing this shit to somebody because they ain't got no, there's no soul involved with that person. Sessions said there's more violence around marijuana than one would think, and there's big money involved. We've heard about all these big bags of money that all these legal marijuana places have floating around town, and they're worried about it, and they want to do banking and shit, but you never hear about them getting ripped off, do you? Big bags of money floating around town. But those statements run contrary to the experience in Washington State, which became one of the first 2 U.S. states to legalize recreational marijuana for adults in 2012. Since voters approved Initiative 502, FBI crime statistics show lower rates of violent crime in Washington than before legalization, according to the FBI data. In 2011, there was 295.6 violent offenses reported per 100,000 Washington residents. In 2015, the most recent full year of the data available, the rate had fallen to 284.4 violent offenses per 100,000. Other data compiled by Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs show the same fluctuations in violent crime rates, but still found no statistically significant increase. According to those reports, in 2012, there was 3.6 violent offenses per 1,000 state residents. In 2016, we're talking about 3.3. The downturn in violent crime in Washington is in line with the national trends. A Pew Research analysis of FBI data found that nationwide, the rate of reported violent crimes in 2015 was roughly half of that it was in 1993. Still, Washington's violent crime rate in 2015 was substantially lower than the national rate, according to the FBI data. Neither the FBI nor the data for the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs specifically tracks violent crimes that might be related to marijuana. A spokesman for the Tacoma Police Department said her agency doesn't track offenses that way either. And that's the whole problem with a lot of these drug driving bullshits, is they don't even track those. Every time there's a wreck, they don't fucking do a toxicology report and piss you for marijuana and shit. It just isn't a thing, man. It's like they only find it when they find it. And then they're like, oh, we found it. And because you can find it because it could be in your system for 30 days, man. So in Washington State, I think it would be a strain to correlate violent crime with marijuana usage, said Mitch Barker, the executive director of the Sheriff and Police Chiefs Group. I would struggle to believe that a legalization of marijuana or more legalization relates to violent crime. Somebody would have to make that case to me. As in, he don't see it, so what are you talking about? And if you told him what you thought there might be a thing, he'd be like, maybe. State Rep David Sawyer, Democrat from Tacoma, and the chairman of the House committee that deals with marijuana, said some state officials initially expected crime to go up with marijuana legalization, especially since the state's weed stores run entirely on cash. Like I said, that didn't happen, Sawyer said. As far as I'm aware, there is no credible study linking violent crime and marijuana, he said. I think what more people are realizing is violent crime is linked to keeping marijuana illegal. In general, legalization takes money out of the hands of criminals, he said, referring to drug cartels. Or just referring to criminals, because the black market, somebody that don't have a regular everyday job and just sells drugs and does petty crimes, marijuana is just another thing they fucking deal, man. State Senator Ann Rivers, Republican, La Center, and Senate GOP leader on marijuana policy agreed. She noted Washington is expecting to rake in about $730 million in tax revenue from marijuana sales in the next 2 years. And not all of that is from people who just discovered the drug. You know, they didn't just fucking start smoking yesterday, dude. This used to be going straight to the cartels. So I did not vote for this initiative, but I'll tell you this. That revenue, that's not coming from people who woke up one day and said, oh, it's legal, I think I'm going to buy some. The bulk of that is from people who were supporting El Chapo or whoever before. Exactly. Rivers said that she thinks it would be too costly and difficult for the federal government to try to rein in states that have legalized recreational medical marijuana. According to the National Conference of State Legislators, 8 states plus Washington, D.C. have legalized recreational use of pot, while 29 states have legalized medical marijuana use. Yet in May, Sessions asked Congress to lift restrictions that prevents the Justice Department from using federal money to interfere with states that have legalized medical marijuana. And in July, the Senate anyway said, no, we're going to keep that in place. Sessions called the restriction on federal prosecutions unwise, particularly in the midst of a historic drug epidemic and potentially long-term uptick in violent crime. Both bullshit. Because cannabis has nothing to do with this historic drug epidemic. That's all big pharma-induced, heroin-induced epidemic of epidemic proportions. This year we're on pace for like 60,000 people. I'm sorry, did I say million? 60,000 people will die this year. Ish. Maybe more from opioid death, overdose. That's what they're talking about. Quit bringing weed into it. And what's this long-term uptick in violent crime that he's talking about? Because all statistical data points to a downturn in violent downtick, not an uptick. All right. So anyway, Sawyer said he remains concerned that Washington's system could be at risk. I think it's a very real possibility, Sawyer said, but we're going to see what the administration chooses to do. And then here's a little thing that shows that besides this little burp in 2012, yeah, it's pretty much just steadily going down. People are mellowing out now that they're finally getting stoned. Fuck you, Jeff Sessions. The state's rate of violent crime in 2015, the most recent data available, also was substantially lower than the national average. The estimated rate of violent crime was 372 per 100,000 in 2015. Huh? Oh, that's the national average. Okay. Anyhow, yeah, so there's your reefer madness, Jeff Sessions style, just got shot down. But like I said, I don't think the feds went to Washington when they did their little tour out there in Colorado to have little secret meetings and talk about enforcing marijuana laws. So Baker signs the pot bill. Come on, Lowell, stop. Whatever, man. Katie Lannon. Governor Baker signed law on Friday overhauling marijuana legalization measures voter put on the books in November, and immediately afterwards offered cautious outlook on the future of the cannabis industry in Massachusetts. I don't support this, Baker said after signing the law in his office shortly past noon. Well, that's just too bad, dude. That's just too fucking bad. Because when the people want something, you better make it happen, dude. You're not God, all right? You're just a guy that has a job and you have an ink pen in your hand. Sign that shit. I worry terribly about what the consequences over time will be. Having spent a lot of time talking to folks in Colorado and Washington, and having talked to a lot of people who've talked to folks in Colorado and Washington, there's a lot of pitfalls that we need to work hard to avoid. No specifics. He didn't tell you who he talked to. He didn't tell you what the problems were. He's just full of shit, like everybody else talking about marijuana that don't want to have it legal in their area. They don't have nothing to go by. And you hear it all the time with people talking about when medical marijuana dispensaries get shut down, get shot down for like their town don't want to do it or whatever. And the people that fought against them having it like they did in my town, they're like, oh, we don't want to be known as a pot haven. Shut up. How many churches are on Main Street in your fucking town? Are you known as a Mecca? How many fucking barber shops are there? You know, how many fast food restaurants do you got? What is your town known for again? Bet you there's a liquor store on every corner. Is it known as a liquor haven? What are these pitfalls you need to work to avoid? It's so stupid. Oh, we might end up having a black market like they do over there in Colorado, blah, blah, blah. Oh, really? You mean your citizens might actually be able to make some money off of something that they can barter and fucking work out with? Whatever, it's just all money for your economy, man. And you're making taxes off it, so why are you complaining? A vocal opponent of the ballot question that legalized and regulated the use, sale, and possession of marijuana by people 21 and older, Baker praised the work of legislators to address issues dealing with local control, packaging, and potency labeling. Yeah, basically, the Democrats tried to neuter this shit, and they got pushback by some Republicans and some other Democrats, and yeah, so they can still grow 12 plants. I'm not sure what else they tried to do to this, but I don't see anything in here that's very much more to mention, but we will talk about Cusick, who chairs the legislature's marijuana policy committee with Jalen. Says that cannabis industry in Massachusetts has potential to grow into a multi-billion-dollar one, and that the committee will keep working on issues that may arise over time. Quote, there will definitely be jobs, and there will be economic spin-off from the growing manufacturing and retail, and there will be heavy impact economically. The law's first deadline is Tuesday, by which Baker, Treasurer Deborah Goldberg, and Attorney General Maura Healey must each appoint 5 members to a cannabis advisory board. The trio must also name the 5 members of the industry's new regulatory body, the Cannabis Control Commission, by September 1st. The Treasurer, Attorney General, and other administrators or administration and others have a lot of work to do between now and next July to get this stood up. I think they meant set up, and we're all going to chase it as aggressively as we can. So, you know what? That's funny because my recollection is that the way government does things is they wait until like a week before the deadline, and then they fucking go give you the most extreme talking points they can, and nothing ever gets done. So we'll see what happens. But so they're shooting for July of next year for actual retail sales to open up in Massachusetts. They still have a system where you can grow your plants and you can trade it for whatever. Just give it to people, trade it, give it. I don't know. I haven't read it in a while, but maybe I'll do a clip on it now that it's they're about to start working towards these new goals as more stories develop. So it was a wild week in weed for Colorado Springs, according to my good friend who probably don't know anything about who I am or never even heard of me, Alicia Wallace, who I often read from The Cannabist, one of my favorite writers. She's just always got the good stories, man. Everybody else must be jealous. So anyway, yeah, they had the secret meetings with the feds, as you remember. I did a story about that. If you didn't see it, go watch it. Headshot busted. All right, on Tuesday, Colorado Attorney General Cynthia Kaufman traveled to the Springs to announce a 13-person indictment related to the bust of an enterprise that allegedly illegally ferried 200 pounds of cannabis through 2 head shops called Hops Crops. The business model consisted of selling low-cost items at prices far above their worth. For example, a lighter for $15 and packing it with free giveaway of marijuana. The Hop Crops homepage touted free flower and shatter gifts with all purchases. According to screenshot taken Tuesday by The Cannabist, as of Thursday, the webpage still includes that promotion. So, get it while it's hot. Gateway drug to homicide. Okay. 4th District Attorney Dan May said that marijuana was the gateway drug to homicide to our community and across the state. He claimed marijuana was connected to 8 of 22 homicides in Colorado Springs last year, according to KKTV 11 News. Colorado Police Department put out this year that we had 22 homicides in Colorado Springs last year of 2016. 8 of those were directly marijuana. This isn't somebody just using marijuana. This is somebody being murdered over legal marijuana grown in their home, murdered over illegal marijuana grow. Which is it? Either way, he's talking about people getting murdered in grow operations. That's pretty fucked up. All right? I wouldn't think that there's a big rash of that going on, and I would definitely have to question whether or not any of those crimes that you said were related to marijuana actually really were. Because people that fucking murder people, I mean, unless it's some kind of cartel shit or whatever, gangster ass shit, and it's usually not in the weed world, man. I'd have to look into these cases and see what the fuck you're talking about. May went on to say that local authorities are overwhelmed in trying to stop the crime involved with marijuana. Oh, please. Marijuana is pouring out of Colorado, May said. It's much more valuable in the streets of New York City than it is in the streets of Denver, Colorado's system is terrible. Go cry a fucking river, dude. Again, we're talking about people that are not cartel members that maybe, drive over to New York with a duffel bag full of weed. It's not like a serious thing. Like, there ain't millions of people doing it. You're acting like this is some kind of a major problem when it's just probably something you've seen happen 2 or 3 times, and you're just like, whoa, we got to stop those people trying to make money doing all that hard work of transporting marijuana to a fucking highly illegal zone and trying not to get busted and thrown in prison for the rest of their lives by providing high quality marijuana to New York. It's a problem. All right, and so meanwhile, Colorado Springs newspaper of record decided to take the temperature on city leaders' attitude towards recreational marijuana. The majority of Colorado Springs City Council members thinks that voters should decide on whether their city allows recreational marijuana, according to the Gazette, which conducted an informal poll of council members last week. 6 of 9 council members told the Gazette that they would favor recreational marijuana ballot measure going before voters. Quote, we need to have a big community discussion, City Council President Richard Scorman told the Gazette the majority of voters did support it. And he's talking about of Colorado Springs. In November 22, Colorado Springs area voters were practically even split on Amendment 64, ballot measure to tax and regulate the sale of adult use cannabis. A total of 141,696 voters in El Paso County were in favor of the measure, and 141,686 opposed it. So yeah, we won by like 10 points, so fuck off. Economic impact. If Colorado Springs were to legalize, regulate, and tax recreational marijuana sales, the city could reel in $25.4 million in tax revenue and permit fees in 2018, according to a study released Thursday by Jack Strauss, a Miller Chair, Applied Economics at the University of Denver's Daniels School of Business. The study also projected that legalization could create between 1,320 to 1,762 jobs for the region. So what is the fucking problem, guys? Strauss's study was commissioned by the Colorado Springs-based Citizens for Safer Neighborhoods, a newly launched collective of residents and business people advocating for the city to adopt recreational marijuana laws. The homicides are happening in the black market, said Mike Elliott, a spokesman for Citizens for Safer Neighborhoods. We are the solution to that problem. And they distributed Strauss's study to city council members and was planning to deliver the report to Southers as well. As to whether organizations would launch a ballot initiative to legalize recreational marijuana, Elliott said all options are on the table. One thing that is clear, these criminal organizations operating in the black market enjoy marijuana being illegal more than anyone, Elliott said. What we're showing here is by allowing these licensed businessmen, we can massively disrupt these criminal organizations and suck money away from them. Kevin Sabet, just in case you didn't hear that, you should probably go talk to that guy and see what's going on out there and how they're actually fighting the cartel by taking their revenue away from them and whatever. I'm just kind of blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, busy week in Colorado Springs. Gateway to murder, huh? Again, I'll go back to the guy in the other article. The people that are killing people over cannabis, it's not in the regulated market. Not at all. It's in the black market. People that are gangsters, territory battles, and, someone got ripped off and someone someone fucking fronted somebody something, they didn't pay it. You know, there's any number of things in the black market. Oh my God. Just when you thought you seen the ugliest heap of dog shit piled up with a fucking striped shirt and a blue tie on. Is that cornflake blue? Cornflower blue. Marijuana governor. Maine Governor LePage is back at it again. This time, I mean, he's like, hey kids, quiet down over there. Enough of this legalization shit. He's begging Sessions to do a crackdown, you know? So LePage would not only like to see the state's recreational marijuana law repealed, but he also thinks the U.S. Department of Justice should swoop in and put an end to legal weed business for good. So you're like, hey, feds, come on into my state and start rounding up these assholes growing weed and shit and fucking throw them in prison. Wow, Republicans, you're really for liberty, aren't you? Maine Governor LePage, during his weekly call-in segment on Bangor-based WVOM Talk Radio, the governor said that he wished the state legislature had repealed the measure, question one, that ended prohibition and established a fully legal cannabis market in the Pine Tree State. I would have just repealed it and said, listen, federal law says it's illegal, now let's move to the federal government and let them deal with this, LePage said. Now, it's funny how Republicans are always the first ones to say that. Like, Jeff Sessions says it, and all these other fucking idiots on the right. They're like, oh, if you guys don't like it, why don't you fucking tell the federal government to change the goddamn law? Well, we have been telling them that we don't fucking like it. Over half the states have medical marijuana because we told them that we don't fucking like their Schedule 1. When are they going to listen? Fat ass. When are they going to fucking put it to a vote? It ain't like there's a shortage of bills on the floor. There's bills on the floor of the House. There's bills on the floor of the Senate. There's constitutional fucking questions being raised in court cases. And they're not being looked at by the Supreme Court. So what the fuck are you talking about? We're trying to do this. We're trying to change it in the federal government. So, you know, quit being a smug asshole about this. In fact, I'm urging U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions to put the hammer down on states that have recreational marijuana. Boy, I'd like to be a fucking bug on the phone call there, man. Holy shit. A couple of hardcore prohibitionists just sitting around circle jerking to fucking, you know, the idea that they might be able to crack down on Colorado or some shit. Shut the fuck up, man. Even Jeff Sessions was a little bit like, whoa, pump the brakes, you know, like when Hugh Hewitt was recommending RICO charges and shit. Like, just over the top, like, Gestapo, stomp your fucking teeth into the curb type shit. Fuck off, LePage. It should come as no surprise that LePage has such a negative outlook on marijuana legalization. Oh, God. Like, why? What's his bug up his ass, man? Last year, just a month before question one went before the voters in the November election, he posted a video PSA suggesting that legalization would be bad for Maine because it would undoubtedly lead to higher rates of drug addiction. Now, if you're new to my channel, it's going to take a while to scroll back, but you might even just look up the page and I don't know. It's in there. I definitely did a video about that about a year ago. And it's fucking hilarious. People addicted to marijuana are 3 times more likely to be addicted to heroin, he said in a video, which, due to the lack of factual basis, was deleted less than 24 hours after its release. I grabbed it, and you'll be able to watch the whole thing because I go right, let them, you know, I hit play, and then I talk about it and shit. It's pretty interesting. Heroin is already killing 7 Mainers a week. We do not need to legalize another drug that could lead to more deaths. They're already legalized, and people have them in their pill cabinet. They're fucking getting sold on the street like fucking Pez dispensers, so it's pills. All right, asshole? That's what's leading to heroin is pills. fucking opioid pills. As it stands, a special committee of Maine legislators is working to draft the regulations for state and recreational marijuana market. However, there are concerns that regardless of how the negotiations shake out, Governor LePage might exercise his discriminatory hand to slap the proposals with vetoes, reports the Portland Press Herald. Now, what now? I mean, what would be the point of that? You got your state voted for legalization. All you're doing is waiting for the legislator to write like rules. And are you just going to be an obstructionist and be like, nothing's good? No rules are going to be good for me. I'm just going to fucking veto anything that hits my desk that has anything to do with cannabis. Fuck y'all. He recently vetoed a couple bills, one pertaining to cell phones while driving and another to raise the legal age of purchasing tobacco to 21, I believe, or maybe even higher, because he does not believe that social engineering a society is going to create a good society. Well, then why are you social engineering with marijuana, man? What the fuck? Oh, I get it. Because you don't have any money coming out of it because you don't have marijuana lobby people giving you cash. Maybe someone should throw them a bone or something. I don't know. But when you're talking about tobacco and you're talking about, cell phones while driving, I don't even know what the cell phone while driving one. Anybody should fucking sign that. What? They want to give people stiffer penalties if they get caught doing it or something. I don't know. Social engineering with marijuana doesn't work either, you fat ass. Sorry, I don't mean to act like I'm really discriminatory against fat people or anything. I just don't like LePage, and he says all these bad things about marijuana. And I just got to say, man, if there's one thing about a guy that's that fat, he's fair game for fucking insult. And because of the fat, sorry, it's because of the fat. It's not healthy. It's fucking dangerous. It's inconsiderately, I don't know. It's just, you can't criticize somebody else's lifestyle choice if that's what yours is to destroy yourself with food. And food's a drug too, guys. Don't make no fucking mistake about it, man. That's dopamine pumping through your veins while you're scarfing down that fucking box of Oreos. Nevada, state of emergency. $100 million in tax shortfall. I'm not really going to read this. I just thought it'd be interesting to throw that out there again. So the short hair of it is the distribution problems that we've all heard about because of the alcohol controllers trying to dominate the market 100%. And the state's just like, man, we're going to let other people get these transport licenses, let dispensaries that can do other deliveries too, or whatever we need to do. I mean, this is an emergency. And basically, they're scrambling and shitting their pants because, quite frankly, they don't want any money to not be collected because they want all the tax money they estimated because they've already earmarked it all. So again, going back to Kevin Sabet's bullshit earlier, yeah, the taxes are going towards specific things. Might not be what you want them to go for, but whatever. The right-wingers fucking gave tax breaks to people. And if you don't think that shit happened in Nevada, give me a fucking break. They got a hole in their budget just as big as anybody else's. So that's what it is, man. They want to make sure they get that money. This story. So, yeah, Michigan, if Michigan, my Legalized, does the old regulate marijuana like alcohol, you'll be able to walk around town with 2.5 ounces as opposed to everybody else that has this law where you can walk around with 1 ounce. And you can also have 10 ounces in your house. And you could also they're trying to show you what 10 ounces looks like. And they're also telling you that when you harvest your 12 plants, you can keep all the weed. Now, a lot of people are like, what? Yeah, at your house, you can keep all the weed from your harvest. Well, what the fuck? That's 10 tons of weed. Who needs all that? Nobody needs 10 tons of weed. But if you tell somebody that they can only have 2 ounces of weed at their house, or even 10, and they just grew 12 plants, they're going to be scrambling around to get fucking rid of that weed. What do you think they're going to do? Just throw it in the garbage? Oh, we got too much weed. Throw it in the fire pit. No. It's a commodity, so people will sell the fucking shit. So if you don't want them to do that, tell them they can keep it. Simple solution. And what about this 2.5 ounces anyway? Let's see here. There's not much in here other than that. You know, Michigan would be tied with Maine, which allows 2.5 ounces on your person. It would tie Massachusetts, which possessing 10 ounces of, and I like how Colin explained it to me from my Legalized, other people's weed. You can have 10 ounces of other people's weed in your house, but when it comes to your own weed, you can only have, you can have your whole harvest when that comes. Right here. Michigan will join states like Maine and Massachusetts in allowing unlimited possession of what citizens grow in the form of their own limited number of legal plants, which in Michigan it would be 12. So we have 2 different people here talking about it. I think we have Mark Kleeman, a professor at New York University who is nationally recognized expert on public policy and criminal justice in relation to marijuana. Said he wasn't familiar with any limits higher than what's being proposed in Michigan. Most states with legalized recreational marijuana cap the amount somebody can have on their person at 1 ounce. Well, big fucking deal, dude. It ain't like someone's gonna beat somebody over the head with a bigger bag of weed. A recent study published in the scientific journal Drug and Alcohol Dependence pegged the average joint, a hand-rolled cigarette, commonly used to smoke marijuana, at 0.32 grams. Quite frankly, that's a fucking small-ass joint. Using that estimate, there are 88 joints in an ounce. Most ounces I'm lucky to get like 30 joints out of, so I guess I roll grams, almost. 2.5 ounces is enough for 220. I mean, yeah, you could roll 220 joints out of 2.5 ounces, man, but, I mean, come on. Who's going to roll pinners like that many of them? And then for 10 ounces, yeah, that's 880 joints. Oh, my God. You're going to die or play too many video games or eat too many donuts if you smoke that many joints. And is this supposed to be a scare tactic? Like, oh, if they got that many joints laying around, the kids are definitely going to have a field day. So it's just absurd. The petition circulating would give Michigan the highest recreational marijuana possession limits in the nation. Kleeman said that the 2.5 ounces a person could carry would be a lot of marijuana. Quote, I'm not clear why anybody would need 2.5 ounces on his person unless he's selling it or unless he bought it. Duh. What if you bought fucking weed somewhere? Oh, what do you got to do next? I got to drive it home. So why shouldn't you be able to drive 2.5 ounces to your fucking house, dude? You just quit acting like you know something, man. But Josh Hovey, the spokesman for the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol, the main ballot group behind the legalization effort, said there were other explanations for wanting to carry that much marijuana. Thank you very much. I can see a situation where someone's going up north for their cabin. It's going to take enough for the summer or for the weekend. Sure. Why not? Or just, who cares, I mean, maybe you are selling it or trading it or something. What's the big deal, dude? Like, 2.5 ounces ain't that much. Hoovey said the group formed the legalization, including the possession limits, with input from stakeholders in the marijuana legal business and law enforcement communities. was a combination of many conversations with our coalition members and organizations who have been working on this issue for many years, reviewing best practices from states that have already legalized marijuana and conducting an opinion poll on Michigan voters to determine what the public would support. Possession limits in most states that have legalized it are 1 ounce on your person, a figure Kleeman said dated back to when marijuana was less potent. An ounce was usually a usual purchase quantity back when pot was 25 an ounce. It might take more than a full joint to get somebody stoned, Kleeman said. So here he's pulling that reefer madness out of his ass again, like, oh shit, this weed today, it's so potent. What are you trying to say? That anything over an ounce might kill you if you have it in your pocket? Man, fuck off. This is so annoying with this, like, I don't know, man. Whoa, shit, what just happened? Anyway, we can go back to this. He does not favor marijuana possession limits in general, saying the lower probability of being arrested for possession means that the laws aren't an effective deterrent. Of the 8 states that have legalized marijuana, 7 allow people to have about an ounce of marijuana. The only exception is Maine, which has a 2.5 ounce limit. That's because they see this thing where the growing is a thing where it's like, okay, if you grow weed, a lot of people grow weed, then people are going to have weed on them. And Jeffrey Zinsmeister, Executive Vice President, Director of Government Relations for Smart Approaches to Marijuana again. Jesus Christ, here they come. Everybody hide your fucking hats. These shitters are coming. A group that has advocated against marijuana legalization said the 2.5 ounce limit on one's person being proposed in Michigan was excessive. Why the dramatic verbs and pronouns and adjectives and shit? What are you fucking being so dramatic about? It's just weed. And it's just 1.5 ounces more than this coveted ounce limit that you feel so comfortable with. Quote, that's just a lot of weed. Sensible Approaches of Marijuana says that's a lot of weed, dude. You shouldn't be running around town with all that weed. Well, let's just average it out for cash. Let's just say weed's like $200 an ounce. Fuck it. Average price, I think, probably. So what is that? That would be that'd be $500 worth of weed. So would that be excessive to carry $500 cash around with you? In today's world, not really. I mean, $500 cash isn't really a fuckload of money. But anyway, and there seems to be no reason why somebody would want to be carrying that much marijuana for personal use. I can give you a dozen reasons why you might happen to have that much weed on you, but whatever. And then, of course, you always have this little bullshit at the end where, you know, the feds will still get you. Don't worry, any amount of marijuana in the federal level is illegal, and chances are increased depending on whether it was your first, second, or third offense. So they're like, oh, if you got 2.5 ounces on you, yeah, we're going to fucking nail you. Another story out of Michigan is my Legalized, and the fact that everything's going pretty good, I guess. Let's just run through a couple things. I wish I had my highlighter. That's why I don't feel like reading this whole article. But a ballot proposal to legalize marijuana for recreational use in Michigan is gaining steam as the group raises more money and boasts it has gathered half of the signatures needed to put the issue before voters in 2016. Mind you, we're not quite halfway through the campaign either. So this is big time outpacing the last campaign, we'll say. A national marijuana advocacy group that helped legalize marijuana in other states is leading the charge for a Michigan plan to let people smoke without fear of legal repercussion. Whoa. Didn't mean to do that. So far, the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol has raised more than $818,000 in combined direct and indirect contributions, according to the latest campaign filing with the Secretary of State. The ballot committee, led by the Marijuana Policy Project, reported $518,288 in direct contributions and more than $300,000 in in-kind contributions, goods and services brought for the initiative rather than directly donated. We continue to be ahead of schedule on our signature efforts. Our fundraising is going strong and keeping up with the pace needed to maintain our goal. Our paid signature collection, says Josh Hovey, the spokesman for the committee and the Senior Vice President of Public Relations from Truscott Rossman. We're roughly halfway there, he said. The petition drive is opposed by a group called Keep Pot Out of Neighborhoods and Schools. I wasn't aware of this. So that's news to me. I might have to go dig that up and do a story about it because I've never even heard of this group. That's a bold name for this group, though. Keep pot out of neighborhoods and schools. That's awesome. Good luck, guys. Attorney Gary Gordon, representing the opposition group, has argued the proposal would not actually regulate marijuana like alcohol. Fucking yeah, it would, dude. It totally would, because just like you can grow 12 plants at home, you can also make alcohol at home, too. So Dr. Michael Mullins, a panelist in Opioid Epidemic Forum in Lansing last month, said marijuana can be a gateway drug to heroin, except for that he's a fucking asshole for saying that, because it's not true. It's been debunked by everybody, even all federal agencies, the DEA, the FBI, the CIA, even the FDA, even all these federal agencies have one thing in common, and they've all made a public statement saying that the gateway theory is basically bullshit. So fuck you, dude. The only gateway to those drugs, to heroin, is the drugs that you prescribe probably all the time, the opioids. I'm getting blue in the face for mentioning that on this fucking podcast. Republican gubernatorial candidate Jim Hines has criticized the use of marijuana. So we're starting to see the governor run develop, and marijuana is a big issue this year. Well, the 2018 run-up, and this is the first I've heard from the right. I find the easy access to marijuana in our society alarming, he said in a statement this week. As a medical doctor specializing in obstetrics, I've treated women who have decided to use marijuana to treat nausea and vomiting associated with pregnancy. Holy shit, I'm sorry about this again, guys. This concerns me greatly because little is known about the effects of marijuana on the development of the baby. Well, since you've had women that did that, well, why can't you fucking do a report? I mean, you can't obviously talk about individual cases, but you can be like, overall, my observation is that there's not much to worry about. Is there now? No, there ain't, man. The group is paying for a massive network of signature gatherers across the state and others to check the signatures and verify their legitimacy. Jeff Irwin, he had to say he's concerned about the he sees it as a way to fight back against a disproportionate number of young black men going to prison. Quote, prohibition has been a massive failure. Damn it. Irwin said the preliminary economic analysis for the campaign committee by the Marijuana Policy Group argues that the state's marijuana market could be a booming $2 billion a year based on data from Washington and Colorado, which both legalize marijuana for recreational use. This could mean more than $200 million in extra state revenue for Michigan lawmakers to use mostly for schools and roads, Irwin said, because again, we're targeting the money. We're not just giving it to the fucking general fund so that they can pay bonds with it like they do with everything else. The plan would offer an avenue for marijuana growers, processors, testing facilities, transporters, blah, blah, blah. He said the plan offers completely control to local governments to allow or stop marijuana shops from doing business, which is bullshit because we already seen what they've done with dispensaries. Hey, if your state passes something and says it's legal, you shouldn't be allowed to fucking say, no, you can't have a business in my town. We'll fight to change that. Sorry, Irwin. That's some neoliberal giveaway bullshit there. No, fuck that. If a town don't want to have marijuana fucking businesses, they're going to lose money and no one's going to fucking want to go to their town. Well, except for those people that just hate marijuana. So now what? We are just about done, guys. This has been a kind of a wild ride. We end up back here with Landon. Landon was the guy that kind of made Sanjay Gupta famous. Where's Sanjay been, man? When he first ran into this kid was born right into hospice. All right, and his brave mother fought to get rid of chemo altogether and just cannabis only. And yeah, man, here he is now, 7 years old. He looks pretty fucking healthy for somebody with leukemia, don't he? I'm not going to read this massive story, but I did read it, and I will tell you that this is an awesome fucking story, and you should go read it. It's in Newsweek, of all places. So the mainstream media is still kind of interested in this shit. And that's good, I guess. I mean, I'm not a big fan of mainstream media, but apparently I'm not very, I'm not the mainstream, or their mainstream media wouldn't be called mainstream media. It's called mainstream media because for some fucking reason, more people pick up a copy of Newsweek every week than go online and try to find news there. I highly doubt that's the case. Their numbers are probably really low. But anyway, it is some kind of a valid thing to think of that, oh, yeah, this guy here, he's still alive because of that cannabis. They had to move to Colorado permanently, of course, because wherever they were, where are they from originally? I forgot. Forgive me, guys. I didn't mean to go and butcher this story at all, and I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna recommend this story to others to read. It's called "Cancer in Kids: Is Medical Marijuana the Answer?" I'm gonna have to go with yes. And I'm going to have to say that, Landon, you're awesome. We're down to the last shit that's going on this podcast, y'all. And I hope y'all enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing these, even though, I don't know, maybe today I seemed a little bored, or it was a little lackluster for me. I don't mean that. I've just had a really hard week after getting robbed. And if you don't know about that, I'll try to remember to put a link in the description, but it's just a couple of videos back on my list. Made a video about it, made a GoFundMe for it, and this is the month right here. After this month, I will have new harvest coming in. I'll be back to normal, but will I make it there? So that's what I'm trying to do this month, is make it there. If you're a good person that smokes marijuana and you want to help me, just throw me a bone, man. 10 or 20 bucks, whatever. Big donations are highly recommended if you're really rich. Oh my God. And I'm tired because I've been working extra hard to try to do whatever I can to pay that electricity bill that's over the horizon. So today we're going to look at basically everybody that ever said they smoked weed in the government. and we're going to call them all good people, even though they might not always be considered good people by everyone. And that's just the nature of the two-party paradigm that we live in, where if you're this, you don't like them, and whatever. The left don't like the right. When you look back at these guys' party affiliation, it kind of makes you like scratch your head. Of course, Ben Franklin and George Washington were independent. Those are your original Bernie Sanders gangsters. So anyway, these guys all smoked weed and grew weed and talked about weed a lot in their memoirs and in other areas. So, and if you don't believe that shit, yeah, you can go down here and you can find the source for that and you can go read up on it. A lot of times these are coming out of books at the references here. So, yeah, there you go. And then Prohibition happened. And then after Prohibition, politicians that have admitted to recreational use during Prohibition includes mayors, governors, members of the House of Representatives, senators, and presidents. That's right. And I don't know all these people, but there's some notable ones. Michael Bloomberg, mayor of New York. George W. Bush, President of the United States. Jeb Bush, his brother. We do know Jack Conway, the Attorney General of Kentucky back in the day. He was a hardcore Democrat, the Dixiecrat they called him. Governor of Massachusetts. Don't know him. Anyway, Lincoln Chafee, he ran for president, I think. Yeah, last cycle. He was the senator from Rhode Island, and he was actually the governor of Rhode Island. And, of course, Billy Bob Clinton, president and governor. Andrew Cuomo, governor of New York. Okay. Howard Dean. Wait, Conway, he was born in 69. What? Is that born in 69? I don't know if that makes any sense. That means he's like my age. Is he the current Attorney General? I wish I had the internet right now. Anyway, Howard Dean, we remember him. He was the chair of the DNC, which is so important because he was the one that actually ran the DNC like it, you know, like it was somebody that wanted to actually win. Bill de Blasio, mayor of New York. John Edwards, senator from North Carolina, also a presidential candidate. Newt Gingrich. I have a hard time believing that that guy smokes weed. Al Gore, vice president, admitted to smoking weed. Gary Johnson, governor of New Mexico. John Kasich, governor of Ohio. Joseph Kennedy. John Kerry. Ed Koch, another surpriser. Connie Mack, senator from Florida, the third. I'm sure his dad smoked weed too, whoever else. Barack Obama. Sarah Palin. George Pataki. David Patterson. Dana Rarenbacher. Bernie Sanders. Rick Santorum. I don't know about that one. Ultra-religious Rick Santorum. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Hey, man. And basically that's, besides Jesse, the mind and the body, the governor of Minnesota. So, you know, it's a pretty complete list. There's some pretty familiar names on there. Like I said, you're going to like some, you're going to not like some. But like them or hate them, these are your politicians that steered us into where we are today as a country. And yeah, even during Prohibition, these guys here, these people on this list, admitted that they used cannabis. And it's always a tepid admit, like, oh yes, I took a puff here, or I didn't inhale there, or I can't claim a Bill Clinton because I didn't do what he said. And it's all weird. You can interpret it as whatever, but I think they smoke weed every day. Who's going to admit smoking weed when you don't have to? You can easily, I mean, politicians lie about every fucking thing in the world. Why not just lie about that too? I mean, unless you're trying to appeal to a certain kind of voter, you're just going to lie about it. Like, I didn't smoke that shit. Motherfucker, I smoke every day. I smell like weed right now. So, but we always have these doubters and haters talking about, oh, George Washington never smoked any weed. Are you fucking serious? You people that smoke weed think everybody smoked weed. Well, we can show you that these guys here smoked weed in their own writing. So, go away. You have the internet. I don't have it right now, but when you have the internet, you can find this shit out for yourself. All right, y'all. I think I'm going to go to bed. It's fucking 4 a.m. So that's all I have for this week. And I'll try to keep weekly podcasts going. There will be some more clips coming out throughout the week as stories are developing. That's it. Peace out.